Welcome to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Lowries. Today on the podcast, we've actually got the amazing Nikki Hind. She is the founder of fashion label Blind Grit, and she is Australia's first and only legally blind fashion designer. I first met Nikki 2 years ago at Access to Fashion at Melbourne Fashion Week. She's an extraordinary human with an incredible story. Nikki has overcome incredible obstacles to become this amazing woman that she is today, and an incredible fashion designer, including surviving trauma, PTSD, a stroke, and being a single mum and juggling all of that to create something amazing. She's truly an inspiration for anybody who wants to actually launch a career in something completely different from what they had done before. So I'm really excited to jump in. Please, if you can, follow along with Nikki at blindgrit.com and on Instagram at blindgrit. And also, if you can, please subscribe, like and share the YouTube channel for the Good Girl Confessional, or we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to really good podcasts. Welcome, Nicole Hind. Hello, Nikki Hind. How are you?
Hello there, Sandy Good Girl.
It's been too long since I have seen you or spoken to you.
A ridiculously long time, because you are in Fort Melbourne as we speak.
Correct. I am. I'm in hashtag lockdown. So we're in stage 4 of COVID restrictions for anyone playing along.
Yes, and look, I made this in your honour. Just going to turn the computer. A lovely simple work shirt from COVID masks that I have worn down to the supermarket and
I love it.
Then brought back. So that's special for you, Sandy.
Thank you. Oh, I can't wait for it to be finished so I can model it.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I think you might have people tearing your shirt off currently in Melbourne, though, so they can wear it.
That's true. That's true. Although I think we'd forgive anyone everything at the moment in Melbourne as long as you're wearing a mask, right?
Exactly. Yes, they've ripped your shirt off, but she's good.
That's right.
She's got a face mask on.
Naked, but not down Burke Street because we are in lockdown, but naked with a mask on is okay.
Naked with a mask on is good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, cheers to you, Nikki Hind.
Yes, cheers to you. Look what I've got here.
Oh, that looks fancy. What is that one?
It does look fancy, doesn't it? And I'm going to take a sip and then tell you. Lockdown cocktails. This is organic apple cider vinegar with raspberry and mineral water.
Wow.
So, yes,
is it tasty?
It's really yummy. Well, I like it, and my eldest son likes it. Yeah.
So
yummy and good for you, but probably not as party as your one.
That's a good girl. Can't let a good girl down. So
I know. Yeah.
Today I've got this is an orange gin that a friend bought me as a present, and it's by Archie Rose, and it's called a poor man's orange. Anyway, orange gin with tonic water and a little slice of orange.
Yummo. And last time I was lucky enough to be there in person with you.
You were?
We had just one too many.
Oh boy.
just one too many.
But in fairness, that was actually way back at Christmas time, and we were celebrating Christmas and it was before COVID set in.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
A little bit too much merriment, and let's just say that podcast did not actually go to air.
It was really fun, really fun.
So much fun. So that is our confession for today. We got hammered and the podcast didn't go live, but
that's right.
So here we are doing round 2, and I'm so thrilled to have you back. You know, a lot of people know that you and I are friends. That we've been friends for quite a while now, and we met through the lovely Carly Finlay.
I know. Yes. Yay, Carly. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you. And so, do you want to talk about where we met?
Well, we met at Access to Fashion. Now, that was 2018, wasn't it?
Yes.
Melbourne Fashion Week 2018. So that's an event that Carly initiated, Carly created, which ended up making it, getting a mention in the New York Times. And yeah, Sandy was media liaison or media manager extraordinaire. So we were certainly on ABC News because it was quite the event for many, many reasons.
It was
And
amazing.
the energy there was, God, it was good, wasn't it? It was so good.
Incredible. So for anyone who doesn't know, Access to Fashion, as you say, created by Carly Finlay, was and still is, I think the first and only fashion show to hit Melbourne Fashion Week, where every single model had either visible or invisible disability. So it was an extraordinary event. I met so many fantastic people. The models were so beautiful, and then I met you. And so, Nikki, fashion designer extraordinaire. So we met at Melbourne Fashion Week, and it was such a delight to meet you. And your beautiful clothes were being modelled by a fabulous model, Michelle Rogers. Just absolutely stunning. But so, for those who don't know, Nikki, how about you tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to be Australia's very first legally blind fashion designer?
Yeah, sure. And I'll start by saying my fashion label is called Blind Grit. You can probably in the background there. That's from last year's Melbourne Fashion Week.
So exciting.
The models were strutting up and down the catwalk holding that. So Blind Grit is inspirational athleisure wear created by those who conquer challenges for those who are ready for one. It is built entirely of and around people who live with disability, and in that I include mental health and trauma survivors. That's certainly a social disability and not usually completely invisible. So all the fabulous, creative, glamorous, aspirational, fun positions that sit behind the creation of a designer fashion label will be done by people who live with disability and survive trauma. So everything except for the manufacturing.
Absolutely fantastic.
So when you slip into, the idea is when you slip into our gear, you get to borrow all this fabulous challenge conquering energy, because this group of people are used to living outside their comfort zone 24/7. So they are experts in pushing out of their comfort zone. And of course, if you're going to improve, if you're going to build anything, build your fitness at any level, physically, mentally, emotionally, in your workplace, anything, you need to be out of your comfort zone. You just can't grow unless you push out of your comfort zone, which of course is uncomfortable and therefore difficult.
It is uncomfortable, but as you say, if people are wearing your beautiful athleisure wear, they can get out of their comfort zone. They can be uncomfortable while actually feeling comfortable in the clothes they're wearing. So
that's right, super comfort. That's what I call it, super comfort for getting out of your comfort zone. So yeah, you get to borrow all that great energy to push out of your own comfort zone for whatever it is you're trying to do. Run a bit faster, put down your third Mars bar, go to a job interview.
Maybe don't drink as many gins, whatever.
Drink a bit of gin, yeah. All those good things. And I have to say, you're talking about me being Australia's first, well, I'm labelled as Australia's first blind fashion designer, but I always refer to myself as Australia's first legally blind fashion designer, because as I'm sure you can tell, I do have some level of vision, and probably the majority of people who are blind have some level of vision. But within the community, the visually impaired community, you're referred to as either blind or not. So it was actually Vision Australia who gave me the label of Australia's first blind fashion designer. So you will see that in various places referring to me. But I tend to call myself Australia's first legally blind fashion designer, which I'm very, very proud of. I'm so proud of, and also a little bit kind of shocked and why is that so? And then as I do research as to where Blind Grit fits in, I honestly can't find anywhere worldwide, anywhere, any label anywhere that is built entirely of and around people who live with disability. You know, there are labels who have people, you know, empower people and give them an income, especially women in some developing nations to do the sewing, a lot of the manufacturing, or maybe art. So aspects, which is wonderful, and it is empowering, and it helps with independence. So there's a fair bit of that, which is very, very good. But I can't find another fashion label, much less a designer fashion label, where it's built entirely of and around. Yeah, so that's the modelling, the photography, the social media, the graphic design, the hair, the makeup, obviously the designing itself I do. All sorts of...
Because I did exactly the same, my dear friend, and tried to Google around, like, I wonder if there's any other, this was some time ago, that I Googled it when I met you, because I was so inspired by what you are creating. And so when I Googled, like, when Blind Grit first launched, and I Googled that, and I truly believe, and I'm quite happy for anyone to contact us and let us know.
Yeah, please Google, and I'm glad other people are doing it, because being legally blind, I frankly don't actually really like Googling.
I think you might be the only fashion label that actually is built on the model that you're talking about. So it's quite extraordinary. So well done to you.
Well, thank you.
And so your new line has been put, is just temporarily set back due to COVID, and that's happened to a lot of businesses. Is that right? Yeah.
It has, and look, that's more out of choice than there being absolutely no way that I can launch it. However, the choice is around just, it's very, very important to me that the awesome people behind Blind Grit get really quality, professional, fabulous experiences, and preferably together, because living with a disability or trauma can be super isolating, and it can, sadly, it can still cut you out of a lot of areas. So we have this wonderful opportunity with SPI Global Sisters, so thank you Global Sisters, to work with Unilever and their awesome T2 team, as in the beautiful yummy teas. They have... I love T2, and I love them even more now. Loved you before anyway, but they have offered, they love what we're trying to do with Blind Grit as well, and they've offered to do the photo shoot of our first collection with our awesome team. So our fabulous photographers and models and hair designers, social media, to come together with T2's incredible team of photographers and graphic designers who just have a plethora of experience. And also, I think what can be underestimated too is some fabulous equipment. You know, some of these people I bring in around Blind Grit, work with, they don't necessarily have the means to buy all the gear that creates such great work. So the T2 team are going to work with us, so my awesome Blind Grit crew can have access to all this wonderful knowledge, years of experience, and also the equipment, and just that networking, and it's, to me, that's just priceless. It's so valuable. So part of me is a bit nervous. The business part of me thinks, oh my God, you know, people are going to, well, frankly, kind of get the shits with you and get a bit bored and frustrated. I've had this collection ready. Would you just release it and sell some and do what businesses are supposed to do? But it's really important to me that, I was going to say the first collection, but it'll be just as important that every step is about those experiences and the networking and and it's so fun, and it's really exciting. And we were, the T2 team and I were working together, and we were looking at doing it at the end of August, and then of course it's been put back a little bit more. So I'm actually trying to think of a few other solutions, and and maybe we can do something with T2 later if I can set something else up. But I certainly won't be launching it until I can have some level of that fabulous experience, because it's what it's all about. So
I think that's
yes, it is partially bought on myself. Certainly the manufacturing chain and things are really difficult anyway. That was going to be hideously difficult in these COVID times, but it probably would have been doable. But I don't want to do it until I can do it the way that I want to do it.
And I think that makes sense, you know, and I think, you know, I completely understand that. As you know, I have been putting together and trying to get a magazine off the ground, and COVID hit, and there's some extraordinary women writers, and again, this is a project that I took on with such love and passion and care, and then sort of a decision was made to keep sort of pushing it back until I could figure out how can we do it in a way. It's unlikely that it will go to print at this stage, but how can we do it in a way and still release it and showcase the incredible stories of women written by women, articles written by women, things that matter to women, and especially women who are 40 and beyond. So I get exactly what you're saying, and I had a lot of people actually say to me, when are you going to release it? I think every day without fail I get an email or a message or something from someone, which is so beautiful because it shows that people care.
It is, you're right. And I think the same thing. Part of me feels like I'm letting people down or
no.
But yeah, it's
I get what you're saying though, because I feel the same way, and I feel kind of this enormous pressure to actually launch it to showcase the women who have been involved. So lots of really amazing women who've come on board.
I can't wait. And the name, of course, is, God, I love the name of it.
It's WB40. So
isn't that a great name, everyone? Isn't that so good? I love it.
But WB40, Women Beyond 40, obviously is what it stands for. And I know a lot of people think, you know, when they hear WB40, they think of a lubricant, but I like to say it's
it's so good.
It's just a little bit good, girl. I like it. I would really love for you to share your story, though, of how you came to be a fashion designer and how this journey started, because it's such an extraordinary story. Your life story is so incredible. And if, you know, I think people will really, really be so blown away by the series of events that led to where you are now.
Sure. And it's funny, when it's your story, it never feels terribly incredible, does it? But thank you. And I guess when I look back and I try and condense it into a 5-minute thing, I think, I guess that is kind of impressive. Oh, good on me. But yeah, I guess certainly as a teenager, fashion design was that, you know, that happy creative place I'd go to in my head when I daydreamed, and I daydreamed quite a lot. And I used to, I did a lot of my high schooling in Queensland, and they used to televise the Golden Gown Awards. This was a precursor before the Australian Fashion Awards and Melbourne Fashion Week. These were that ones. I think they were just telecast down the east coast of Australia. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And so these were the precursor to all of them. And I used to watch it when we actually watched TV. You had to wait for when it was on TV, not streamed. So every year I'd watch the Golden Gown Awards, and I'd sketch all these sketches of designs and dream about, you know, my designs strutting down the catwalk. But I thought that was really unpractical. I thought that was like wanting to be a pop star or something. So I just went and did quite practical things with my life, including public relations and communications and events management and those kinds of things. And I actually had a stroke at the same time as I became a mum for the first time. I was actually always legally blind in one eye, so I could never really see out of this left one. And when I had the stroke, it took out the 50% of the field of vision on both thighs. So that's actually a brain injury. My brain can't process 50% of the field of vision. So now I can see out the inside half of my right eye. So, I mean, people say, oh my gosh, that must have been hard, that happening at the same time as becoming a mum for the first time. But it was, to me, I think that was really great, because it kind of had to take a back seat. And, you know, I had this beautiful little baby that I'd completely fallen in love with, and was, you know, as being a mum. And there were definitely things that were a bit harder. I won't minimise it by saying, well, it made no difference. It did. It obviously made a difference, but it definitely also had to take a back seat, or I certainly chose for it to take a back seat. And of course, it's also now always entwined with just, you know, becoming a mum, which was the, you know, the by far the best thing in my life.
And do they know, Nikki, why you had a stroke? Like, was there, did they figure that out, or do you want to share that story?
Yeah, and that and that makes Darcy, even, that's my firstborn son, that makes him even more special, I have to say, because it's a blood clotting disorder. It's apparently incredibly rare. My hematologist was so excited when she found it. I think she may have written some academic paper on it. She was, they actually didn't find out what it was until after the birth of my second son. However, it's called inefficient tissue plasminogen activator, which sounds very exciting. It's an inability for your body to dissolve its own blood clots. And your body is forever creating little blood clots, and particularly in pregnancy. So yeah, that's what I've got, and that was the stroke that I had. So I guess I also feel really, really lucky that, because I've been having mini strokes for years, unbeknownst to me, but that the main one I had just seems to have left this scar about the size of a 50-cent piece that's affected the outside half of my vision. Because I guess if it had gone to lungs, heart, brain, different part of my brain, it may have been a far more serious outcome. And sometimes I think, I can't believe it didn't affect anything else. And then I think, maybe it did, and I just can't tell. Everyone around me is going, oh my God, she thinks it didn't affect her. No.
One of the things I love and admire about you is your extraordinary optimism and your sense of humour, which I'm so glad everyone else is going to see here.
Thank you.
Even in talking about something that is clearly traumatic, to go through a stroke, especially when you know, as you say, giving birth to your firstborn baby. So, you know.
Well, and I thought they told me I'd lost him, because I'd had 3 miscarriages before Darcy, and anybody who's had 3 miscarriages, well, in Australia anyway, may know that after the 3rd one, they do a lot of tests on both the little fetus and on yourself to see what's going on. And the miscarriages were at about 4.5 months. So again, anybody who's been pregnant knows that you kind of wait till that 12-week stage, because if the little baby's made it through to 12 weeks of the pregnancy, then it's probably going to be a viable pregnancy. Everything's probably going to be all right. So it was always after that 12 weeks, it was kind of between 4 and 5 months that I kept losing the babies. And they did, after I lost the 3rd one, they did a little autopsy on the little baby and did a heap of tests on me. And the doctor told me she was a perfectly formed little girl. And then when I was pregnant with Darcy, again, I'm not sure when it was, but about 4 months. Had to go to the hospital on a Sunday because I was bleeding, and they told me, I'm so sorry, you've you've lost your baby. You sorry if there are men listening, they may not be loving this. Your cervix has opened, and that's the body's way of kind of getting rid of the baby. Basically, I was bleeding. They couldn't find a heartbeat and my cervix was open, but it was Sunday. So they said, we don't have an anaesthetist here to do the D&C. Go home, come back tomorrow. And this baby may abort itself overnight in the toilet. And again, anyone who's, and just the thought of that is so awful. But so I went home and I was so distressed because I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not getting pregnant anymore. My body is killing these babies. You get so cross at yourself. And I was in pain and I was upset. So I took way too many Nurofen. So don't do this at home, kids. I took too many Nurofen. And of course, Nurofen is aspirin based.
Yeah.
So unbeknownst to me, I honestly think that's probably what saved Darcy's life, because I went in on Monday and they did they listened for the heartbeat and did all that stuff. And they said, there's a heartbeat. I can hear your baby there. And cervix had closed and Darcy was still in there with his little heart beating, and he's now 15, taller than me.
Oh, Darcy.
Yeah, so yay, Darce. And
you, Mama. Yay, you.
Yeah, and I found out, and the obstetrician put me on Clexane, which dissolves blood clots for the whole of the pregnancy and the whole of the pregnancy with Corey too, not actually knowing what I had, but just in case. And when the haematologist found out what it was, it's actually impossible to carry a baby full term with this particular disorder. So back in the old days before Clexane and things, I just would have been one of those people who just could never have a baby. And you tend to lose them at around 4 or 5 months because the clots go across the placenta and your body can't dissolve them, and you give the baby a stroke, a heart attack. So that was, my little...
And that's the thing, right? I love when I always, you and I have talked at length about a lot of things. But I love that every time you still think that your story is not extraordinary. And this is only like a little snippet so far. And so that kind of leads me into another thing that we're aligned on, I guess, is that, I became a single mum when my marriage dissolved and I was sort of juggling full-time work, 3 kids. And you actually have gone through the same thing.
Yeah, so I found myself, a single mum with these 2 beautiful little boys. They were just 1 and 3, legally blind, yet single mums, really very socially isolated, with nothing financially, absolutely nothing, and struggling with the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder by this stage in my life. And it was kind of a compounding over many years. And in different areas of life too, I guess the compounding, was in via family and via work and via partner, and the traumas kind of stacked up, and I found myself in this situation feeling really crushed, and just that awful isolation and incredible lack of confidence, and just it's like losing yourself, which I'm sure anybody, I'm sure there's many people out there can really relate to that. Just that I felt like I was under a heavy dark blanket or something, and I just lost myself. It was really, really awful. I was really, really struggling, and I had these 2 beautiful, beautiful little boys, little bundles of bouncy joy, and there's just, I guess there's just no way I was going to raise them in this state of lack of confidence and lack of joy and this heaviness. And and I looked at them and had all these dreams for them, and I would talk to them about strength and dreams, but you got to role model it. The best thing you can do for your kids is role model what you want for them. So certainly being a mum changed my life in so many ways, but it really was an absolute determined desire to get out from under that heavy, heavy, dark weight. And it was awful. And if there's anything worse than being there, it's being there with your two beautiful kids. You just don't want that on them. You don't want them in there with you. It's awful. So I guess intuitively I reached for a dream, for an aspiration. And it was intuitive, because I don't really know why I did that. I mean, in hindsight, it makes complete common sense to me, and it's the whole precept that blind grit is built on. But in hindsight, I know it's that that avoidance motivation when you're dealing with post-traumatic stress is so strong. The motivation is to avoid the fear, to avoid the bad situation ever again, to protect yourself, and just it's so strong that you're going to need something of equal strength, and preferably more, to pull you away. So rather than fleeing, you're actually reaching for something. So reach motivation. And so for me, it was fashion design. I just started designing things. I went back to TAFE, and I just tried to get my headspace more and more strongly in that creative space, and imagining things being on the catwalk, and imagining feeling confident and sexy, and because my God, you lose all of that within trauma as well. And so it was that. And I created my first collection in 2015. I thought, I'm just going to give this a go. I'm going to just put so much focus on this, I guess, to block out all the other horrid stuff. And so I started at the start of 2015, and my goal was to have it ready for the Prix de Marie Claire Awards, that you had to have them in by the start of November. So I designed them, got them created, got them photographed, created the lookbook, because you send in an electronic lookbook rather than the garments. Did all that, sent it in, got a phone call from the PR manager at Marie Claire to say, thank you so much for your entry, but the fashion component's on every second year, and this year isn't one of them. Which I was devastated about for like 6.5 minutes. But but she didn't actually.
Right.
Pardon?
So much work and energy that you poured into this amazing project. I can imagine you were crushed for at least 6.5 minutes.
6.5. Well, and because I talk myself into, I want to win this.
Yeah.
And if it's not on, how am I going to win it? But she didn't actually bin it. She sent it through to the fashion editor, and she sent it through to Nikki Hind, the chief editor at Marie Claire, because I had put a story attached to it. At this stage, I did not mention I was legally blind. I actually just had in there, I guess, that more the stuff around that trying to get out of the traumatic situation story. So I hadn't, again, in hindsight, it's ridiculous. I did not want people to know I was legally blind. I thought they would look at the collection differently. So I made no mention of it in any of the stuff that you put in the electronic lookbook, any of the description, didn't say it to Marie Claire. Now, nothing came of that with Marie Claire, because the competition wasn't on and the collection wasn't retail ready. So nothing came of it, but it made me think, wow, these people are industry giants, and this tiny little vote of confidence from them. I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, what do I want it to look like? And I did some research and found the lack of, that's when I went looking for the other legally blind people who were doing this, and there weren't any in Australia. But it kind of got me, and it had done good things for pulling me out of that awful space I was in. So I guess I wanted to replicate that. you know, I wanted to bring others along for the journey, I guess. So that was where the idea of Blind Grit was born. And then I worked on the business model of that. I won an ING Dream Starter Scholarship, which is for social businesses, for the business model of Blind Grit, which I'm very proud of, and worked very, very hard on the business model of Blind Grit, because I didn't necessarily just want to bring more clothes into the world. I wanted to replicate the good things that had done for me. I knew the power of creativity, the power of aspiration, and just trying to put that into where it belongs, and fashion as a platform for value, prestige, desirability, all these things that do not sit naturally alongside disability or trauma. And I feel very strongly about that. Yeah, so Blind Grit was born, and I guess the idea with Blind Grit is kind of twofold. One is the people who are part of it, that idea of aspiration, validation, and motivation, so that you know, to tap into your dreams and your aspirations. And again, a little side note that I feel very strongly about. I think as many people in society take it for granted, take the idea of being able to dream for granted. You know, it's something you ask little boys and girls all the time. What do you want to be when you grow up? And certainly for many people with a disability, and many little ones in traumatic situations, this can be wiped out almost instantly still. And if it's not wiped out instantly, there may be some, you know, from those close to you, and it will be out of love. You know, maybe you might want to think about doing something different, because that's going to be really hard for you because you're in a wheelchair, or you can't hear, or you can't see, or you've only got one arm, or you know,
so true. And I think it's always been the same, and it's something now that, you know, is one of the amazing things that is starting to happen, I guess, you know, over a number of years, is starting to see the rise of disability activists and advocates who are really showcasing. And it's interesting you say you didn't want Marie Claire to know that you were actually a legally blind fashion designer.
And I'm kind of a bit ashamed of that in hindsight, but I guess it was just part of my journey, and just part, yeah, no, I did not want them to know.
How beautiful now. I think that's the thing about, I was raised, as you know, or some people who follow along to the podcast will know, by a very strong disabled mother, but there is no denying that she was incredibly scarred by her treatment, by her parents, by society, by everybody, and the constant, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. So that she, in a way, I think, like, lived with so much regret that she didn't pursue certain dreams because she was so terrified of hearing no, she was terrified of rejection, and she was terrified of failing. Because
that's right. And why wouldn't you be?
Yep. When
it's scary enough anyway. People find it difficult to pursue dreams because it's you're out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
It's frightening. You're scared of failure. And if you grow up getting those dreams pretty much wiped out early on, and then, you know, there are different layers of it, as I say. Then there might be people who really love you who are so worried that you'll be devastated that they try and steer you in a different direction. And then that other layer of I can't see it, so it's silly to dream it. I can't see disabled models. I can't see a disabled president. I can't see a disabled CEO of Qantas. I can't.
It's all of it. Representation matters so much, right?
Yeah. So
agreed.
It's a privilege. Not only is it a privilege, I guess, and I do take the opportunity to say this whenever anybody wants to speak to me, because I really want people to think about what that does. You know, the strength of a dream, the strength of aspiration, and there's a really strong focus on entry-level positions for those who live with disability, and often those who are struggling with trauma. And I guess that's okay, because there are some really great things that flow on from being in the workforce at any level. I do know that. However, just that Brew, what happens when you people don't dream, when people don't aspire, and when you take that away, because it is so strong. It is a really, really, really strong positive thing. So you're with Blind Grit, it's aspiration, validation, motivation, so that, you know, connecting in with your dreams. Validation is, and being able to tell your story through the platform of Blind Grit from a strength-based perspective. These are all the challenges I have, do, and will conquer on a daily basis. This is what I do. I am kick-ass. Yeah, hell, you want to be like me? Like you want, and motivation in terms of whatever it is you absolutely love doing, whatever it is you dream of doing, want to do. Setting up, I guess, opportunities that match in with capabilities around time and all sorts of different locations, to say, okay, what can you do? What do you want to do? Let's get that out to the world. Let's show the world this awesome thing that you can do, but let's do it in the way that works along with you, because there's an incredible power in survival, but it definitely sits alongside the scars of survival. And that's not a bad thing at all. That's not, yeah, but work with it, not against it. And you get this awesome, yeah, I mean, the power of survival is incredible.
I think that's true. I think, you know, the more women that I meet, and obviously through being a podcaster, through being a writer, through being, you know, in comms, as you've talked about, you know, I've met so many extraordinary women from all different walks of life. And the more women I meet, the more amazed I just keep getting. Like, it's, you know, scratch the surface of any woman's life, and there's always kind of a story beneath it. Some more extraordinary than others, but women are, and I, you know, the reason I started this podcast and the reason that I'm starting WB40 is exactly that. And so I'm as passionate about that as you are about Blind Grit, because it really is about raising women and getting their voices heard and having their stories told.
And you see, that's your dream and your aspiration, and this is my dream and my aspiration. And I mean, I can hear the passion and the power in your voice, and people often say they can hear it in mine. Just harnessing, you know, harnessing that power in society is only going to be a good thing.
I agree. I really do. And I think there's enough negativity in the world, and especially, let's face it, 2020, in terms of a year, can basically, you know, suck it big time. It's
and see, you're gonna I'm gonna go, no. I'm gonna be the one who says no. Yeah, and I mean, obviously I'm heartbroken and devastated at the amount of death and the, you know, the fear that some people are living with. And I guess what's even more sad for me about the deaths is so many of them have been alone. Obviously the hospital staff there, happily, but alone, and the people who have lost relatives who weren't able to be by their bedside as they died even. This is so heartbreaking. But to go along with, you know, listening to the things that you find so difficult, and so many people in society currently around the world are finding those things difficult, along with the horrible stress of you know, lack of work. And you know, I guess though, because I'm a big fan of disruption, and people don't invest in it because it's expensive and it's scary, but I guess it's highlighting for so many people what isolation feels like.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's highlighting what either unemployment or underemployment feels like. What
casual or vulnerable employment looks like.
Yep, and what you know, not being able to rely on that very superficial social value looks and feels like as well. And although I'm genuinely upset for the people who are going through that. It's just so hard. I hope that part of what we do as a worldwide community is think, wow, we actually have probably the majority of people underemployed, not employed. I guess not just being able to experience it for yourself, to really be able to put yourself in those shoes and know this is awful. People don't want to live being underemployed and unemployed. That whole concept of the dole bludger, that people are having a lovely time living on the dole, bludging off the system.
I think that whole construct now has been given a huge shake-up, as you say, because the reality, it now impacts so many people, and so many people who are, like really living on the edge anyway, because that through no fault of their own, they are living literally paycheck to paycheck, and then to lose that. And what this has highlighted as well is that, that welfare and that welfare payments from the government are so inadequate for so many. But they've just allowed people to continue to battle and live on that tiny amount of money. And suddenly when people in higher positions started losing their jobs because industries were shutting, the JobKeeper went up. Now, part of that, obviously, I get is to, put money back into the economy, and we're very lucky to be in a country that's been doing it, job seeker, JobKeeper. But what it really highlighted was when they put that amount up, how many people have been forced to live on the smaller amount for so long, and they're trying really hard to get a job, and they're marginalised, and they're isolated, and as you say, this ridiculous kind of notion that especially in Australia we have, that if you are receiving any sort of welfare or any sort of support or help, that you're a dole bludger. Like, where does that come from? There's so many, single mothers are harassed, for it. There's a lot of people doing it really tough. But I think you're right. This shone a spotlight into some of the, And
I think there's also been, some extra spotlight on things like the isolation around domestic violence. And and I guess any time that stuff is highlighted and spoken about and not lost under a wash of celebrity whatever, or what company took over what other company, and under a wash of money and prestige, those very human things are very much at the forefront in this year, and I think that's extraordinary. And I think,
of course, is as we all know, shining a spotlight on how the elderly are treated in this country, and how privatising nursing homes and making it about money has devastating consequences. And that these are the people who fought for our country. These are the women who came before us to fight for our rights. These are, these are all human beings who all have stories, and this has really kind of shaken that up. And I hope, obviously there's a long way to go, but I really do hope there will be big solutions that come out in terms of humanity, not just in this country, but globally, that we start to focus on what is really important. Other cultures would never allow the elderly, for example, to be treated in such a way. And most of us didn't even know the extent of what was going on,
that's right, yeah.
Right? That, finding out, I mean, for me personally, finding out that, you can work in a nursing home with no qualifications at all is really quite, anyway, that's just scratching the surface. But it has also shone a light, obviously, on disability care workers, and, the lack of, I guess, overview of what is happening and how badly some of our most vulnerable members of society have been treated, and how carers have gotten away with that.
And also I would hope that it focuses a little bit on the strengths too. I was speaking to a steering committee recently who works around people who work in the support networks for people with disability, and I was just talking about the positives of COVID for people with disability, that for some people I know with disability, it's been it's been some of the better times for them, as in they've felt more connected, they've kind of felt more understood, they've felt more included. And this group of people were shocked. That hadn't occurred to them. And then I was shocked that the people that work making the decisions around how people support disability hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I did hear hopefully it highlights some of the strengths. And to work from home and to socialise with people across social media, because there are some people who live with disability just find it so difficult to get to the places that people who don't live with disability socialise, and it just doesn't even occur to them that it's difficult to get to that bar, to move around that bar, to not feel uncomfortable in that bar. And that everybody's doing Zoom meetings, everyone has to do it, and that's how everyone's socialising.
And it's funny because it's kind of connected us all, and I think what's really interesting too is that, another friend of mine actually mentioned this the other day, and it's so true, that she is now connecting with people that she hadn't spoken to in years. Like, they sort of, we just sort of like each other's Facebook things or whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly now they're doing these sort of Zoom chats with people and feeling far more connected. And I think that out of disruption, as you say, and out of isolation and out of all of those things comes this kind of desire to connect more, because I think
and because if you think and if you think about how the majority of people socialise, it is often through their work. So through work when they're actually at work, and then also they're the people, you might go out and have drinks after work or whatever. It's very, very work in the office orientated, and you tend to stick to your groups if you're the upper management, middle management, if you're in creative industries, whatever. Now, that is really, really exclusive. It's so isolating. It's so disheartening. I hope people can see how you can really feel like nothing and nobody in society if you're not able to work in those offices, and if you're not able to go out for drinks with all those people afterwards. I hope people give more than a fleeting thought to that, because it's really exclusive. I have felt horribly left out socially, and I don't even have difficulty getting in and out necessarily of bars. It's just I get left out because I'm not working in those offices. I'm not working in that. Don't. We get very caught up in what you do for work being your value. And I think that mask has been torn away for a lot of people at the moment. And please understand that there are so many people in society that feel this way 24/7, that don't get to hold their value in that mask of the work that they do, because they're excluded from a whole stack of work options and a whole stack of work physical situations. Please, please connect around your work as well, because it's isolating not being part of that group. Yeah,
and it's such a valuable point. And I think, as you say, there's so many people who are living, with that on a daily basis. So I think, as you say, in some ways, this disruption, this pandemic has kind of created a lot of avenues for people to connect, and in ways that maybe they didn't think about ever before. So that's kind of been really nice. I think I had on the podcast Dr. Catherine Barrett, who started the Kindness Pandemic, which is such a great movement. Incredible.
Yeah.
And that sort of started out of the very first wave, when the first lockdown. Because she was very mindful and conscious of that as well, of this kind of small acts of kindness can actually connect people.
It's so lovely.
So beautiful, right? And I think, I sort of carry some of her lessons now, which I love. And, the other day, a friend of mine put up on Facebook, she was really missing her grandmother, that her grandmother's going to turn 94, that her grandmother's feeling very isolated and very alone, and no one can go and visit. And I reached out to her, so it's little simple things, and said to her, would it be okay if I said, your grandmother doesn't even know me, but would it be okay if I sent her a card? And she was like, oh my God, that's great. And then another friend had offered to send a card. And so, this woman who doesn't even know us will get these anonymous kind of,
yeah,
not anonymous,
it's so lovely. Yeah.
Something to brighten her day, right?
Yeah.
You're like, who are these people? And another friend who's online, she's a public figure, but she put out that same thing. She is in New South Wales. Her mum's in Melbourne. Her mum's elderly, feeling very, very isolated. And she said, oh, my mum's birthday is coming up. And she put it out to the people that follow her, and said, if anyone out of the goodness of their heart wants to send her a card or a letter or something. And so she was inundated, which is really lovely. Or just cards and things, and some people
how lovely
puzzles or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that, as you say, there's just this kind of, I do see that the collective mentality is starting to change around that, around understanding for the first time, as you say, something that yourself and other people within our community have been feeling for a long time, which can be isolated. As you say, that feeling of being left out, because that's crap, right?
Yeah, it is. It really is awful. Yeah, and people are feeling how awful it is. In a slightly different way, I guess. But yeah,
but it's a good thing to come out of it. I think if we learn lessons from this, then it will not have been for nothing. I mean, we have, not that we can control it, and not that we could have changed anything, but I think if some good comes out of it, that's so epic and so awesome. And Speaking of epic and awesome, so I was very lucky to have a little sneaky peek at your range, your new clothing range, which is not coming up. So I feel very, very honoured and very lucky that I had a little sneaky peek. And I loved also that you did a little photo shoot with another favourite of both yours and mine, which is Kimberly Coleman.
Also introduced by Carly Finlay, also at Access to Fashion. Yeah, that was.
And remain friends with. An extraordinary woman. So she's actually at home in Kentucky in the US, and I miss her like mad too. So hi, Kimberly.
Hello, Kimberly. Thanks for the kiddos.
And but I loved that you did a little fashion shoot with her last time she was in Melbourne.
How lucky am I?
I know. It was very exciting, and see, another resilient, extraordinary woman. There you go.
Incredible. And if you want to look at everybody, because that's a little snippet of there's just really one outfit that she's wearing, but it's on the website.
And the website details we'll put up everywhere, so it'll be here.
And don't forget to read Kimberly's story, because she's got her story in there too, because all my models are kick-ass.
Yes, very kick-ass, and it's a great website too, by the way. And if you want to learn more about Kimberly as well, she was also on this podcast last time she was in Melbourne. So
yes, she certainly. Well, yeah, I think that was like the day before or the day after she came and did the photo shoot. Actually,
I think it was the day before, and then for the photo shoot. So no, maybe it was she saw you first and then me.
Right.
Because she and I
did I come first, Sandy? Did I come first?
You came first, baby. All the confessions in here, I tell you. I know you did come first, because I had cocktails with her, did the podcast, and then drove her to the airport.
Well, definitely yes. I came first then. Yeah.
So she was actually burlesque dancing while she was.
She was. She is awesome.
Beautiful. So I was very lucky to go see her burlesque show here in Melbourne as well. So that was pretty cool. It seems a lifetime ago now that we could go anywhere. But
I know.
So that's true too. So moving forward, because your collection's done, and so looking forward to a launch for that after things calm down and settle down. And I think it's absolutely fabulous that you'll be able to work with T2.
Can't
Um,
wait.
yeah, just so wonderful. And I think like that's a really gorgeous piece as well. It's this collaboration,
Yeah.
people coming together to make stuff happen is really beautiful. So
Oh, it's brilliant. It's really powerful. It's so good. It can only be a good thing.
can only be a good thing. So
Mm.
I am so looking forward to when you have an opportunity to launch it. It's very exciting. I'm pleased to say that we did not get drunk this time around, and that Mr. Squiggles,
Mr.
Squiggles,
No, Mr. Swiggles.
Mr. Squiggles
Yeah, yeah.
this time around. So I might put up a little sneaky photo and show people what I mean. So last
Oh, yes, do. Yeah. Do, Miss Jane, do. Oh, Miss Jane.
So for anyone who's not Australian and has no idea what the hell we're talking about, there was a children's television character when we were growing up called Mr. Squiggles, who was a little man from the moon, and he had a pencil for a nose, and he used to come and visit his friend Miss Jane, and he would draw interesting pictures made out of a squiggle, and he would create something out of it.
Oh, do Google it if you don't live in Australia. It's so worth Googling. Yeah.
And so last time we were together, the two of us were together, we may have had one too many cocktails, but also I had I'd given you a bottle of wine which had like a little Santa hat on it and a little elf hat, a little elf thing.
Hat. And little arms too. I've got him. Yeah, and so we named him Mr. Swiggles.
Mr. Swiggles. And Mr. Swiggles was already full of grog. He was completely drunk. So anyway,
he was a bad influence. He was a bad influence or a good influence. Yeah, a very good influence.
It was a lot of fun though. There was that day. It was so much fun.
It was so fun, and because it's taking so long to get this first collection out there.
Yeah.
Because I've been working on the second collection now.
Oh, I'm
so hopefully by the time we release the first one, it'll be, and next week the second one, and the next week the third one.
I'm so excited.
Fun.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got all my bits and pieces around me at the moment. I'm looking over there at bits of inspiration. Yeah, I got all my. It's so fun.
Oh, you've been busy. You've been very busy. Well, that's exciting.
It is fun. I do like that bit. Yes, definitely the two funnest bits are the designing and the photo shoots. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll be exciting. That'll be so exciting. So, loving it and loving you as always.
Loving you back.
So I think, to end this on such a positive note, I'm, going to just recap here that your own words, that basically reach for the stars, don't forget to dream, and that having dreams and a goal and a purpose can actually help to elevate you out of some stuff. So especially while all this COVID nonsense is going on, and I know big shout out to everyone out there who is really having a hard time with things, who's not coping, listen to the beautiful Nikki Hind here to really to not give up your dreams. And your dreams can be small, they can be huge, doesn't really matter, but having a dream and a purpose really can help
that's lovely. Thank you. And as you're saying that, I think it's a bit like that oxygen mask thing. They say put your own oxygen mask on. As you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, look after your own dreams and also look after others. So I guess look after your own dream and then take note of others as well. Help elevate them. Help them with their dreams. The more humans who have dreams and purposes and aspirations, the better. So look after your own dreams. They're important. And look after other people. Look out for other people's dreams and look after other people's dreams as well.
And nurture them, because here at Good Girl Confessional, we are always about women empowering other women supporting other women, and women being able to share their hard-won wisdom, because that's what this is really, isn't it? It's hard-won.
Yep.
You're amazing.
Oh, I love you loads, Sandy. Miss you heaps. Can't wait to have another gin with you down there in Melbourne.
I miss you so much.
Big hugs. Hug.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast again.
Yeah. See, if I was smart, I would have got drunk at this one too, and then we would have had to do another, and I just would just do one after the other, just an excuse to Zoom you once a month.
Oh, well, we can do that. We'll just schedule it in. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Just for the hell of it. So, no, I miss you like mad. So it's always so beautiful talking to you. Your story is incredible, and I will put up links to your extraordinary website, to your wonderful brand, and everyone can follow you as well.
Yes, please do follow us, because Debbie Larson, our awesome social media manager, who is also blind, and please read the stories of our great people on the people drop down on the website, read their stories. But Debbie wants more. She wants more Instagram followers. So go get us some Instagram followers and follow Blind Grit, because Debbie will be ecstatic.
So everybody who is listening to this, please jump onto Instagram to Blind Grit, at Blind Grit. Yep. Follow along and make your day, because
and send Debbie a high five.
Yes, make sure you send Debbie a high five. But she's doing a fantastic job, and I know.
Oh, she's incredible. And she actually, if you want to see Debbie in action under media on the website, there is a link to a Channel 9 news story from Melbourne Fashion Week last year, featuring Debbie. So you can see the awesome Debbie speaking on Channel 9 News. She really is incredible. Love you, Debbie.
Website, fantastic. And I must say, I was so lucky and honoured to be your +1 at a Melbourne Fashion Week event last year. That was very.
You came to the opening with me, and we drank gin there as well.
Surprise! Seriously, people must think I'm an alcoholic, Nikki. Listen to her wicked laugh.
I know. And look, I'm a vinegar-holic.
Yeah.
I haven't even drunk much of my vinegar. God, how boring am I?
I'm going to try that though, because it does.
And see, I wore my purity white top today for you too at the confessional.
You did. She told me before we jumped on to do the potty that she was going to. Nikki said she was going to wear something appropriately good girlish. I was like, what is that exactly? Could have been anything.
It could have. Yes, it so could have been anything. You're right.
With a mask on. So that's that's very true. So okay, so quickly before we go though, so what are some valuable tips? Have you got any tips for us on how to cope or things to try or things to do during quarantine?
Oh, what? Watch good quality stand-up comedy. That's my thing. That's what I do. Oh, no matter how shit my day's been, if I watch live at the Apollo. I'm a fan of English and Australian comedy in particular. Bit of stand-up comedy, because they're all such awesomely flawed, dysfunctional, intelligent people. Oh, cheers me up no end. Yeah, when you're struggling, watch some stand-up comedy.
I love that one. I recently watched Ursula Carlson.
Yeah. I love her stuff.
Just love her. Great.
Funny. And gosh, go easy on yourself. Just go easy on yourself. It's okay. Sit on the couch with some daggy tracksuits. Pretend you're a bloke and stick your hand down the front of your pants. And you can finish that image however you want. That's right.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
I love it. I genuinely want to say thank you though for sharing your story, for always being so honest and so open and sharing, those vulnerable, very vulnerable sort of aspects of your life and your journey to become the awesomeness that you are today. So thank you, my darling. I really appreciate it. I enjoy talking to you endlessly.
Thank you, Sandy, and likewise. Miss you loads.
Bye, darling.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your quality podcasts. We chat to really interesting women telling their amazing stories, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for all of your support. Bye for now.